Hi and welcome to today. I'm Amanda and I'm taking you on my 31 days of essential tools and supplies. My essential tools and supplies may be different from yours, but today we're going to be playing with. So let's get started. Hi and welcome to today. Now today I wanted to show you some of my studio essentials. Obviously that's a series, but today we're going to be looking at some of the tools I use, specifically jewellery tools. So I started my journey wanting to make jewellery, and so I ended up buying loads of tools, and obviously now as a mixed media artist, it's not obvious, is it? Now as a mixed media artist, some of the things I make, I use fabric and I use beads and jewellery and things like that. All the things that I used when I was creating jewellery, I utilise now. And that was one of the things that when I brought them, I thought to myself, that's a waste of money, because now I don't want to do it. I'm not interested in creating jewellery. And it was just like, I found that the type of jewellery that I was creating, the amount that you would have to make, you were competing, like against the stores who could make it for in a shorter amount of time. The time it was going to take you, people just didn't want to pay for what I felt it was worth. Anyway, but that was besides the point. What I found was, anyway, I was able to explore doing something different, and I then was able to work out for myself that it wasn't what I wanted to do. Anyway, so I'm just going to really show you some of the tools I use now. I'm not actually in my studio. This is a space, my studio's been rained out today, and so I'm using this space. So what I've got is just a few things to show you. So again, the kind of key thing is, when you're feeling stuck, ways in which you can kickstart your creativity and allow your creativity to kind of flow, basically, but also when you're short of time. So there are so many different things that you can do. So one of the things that I do is often I sort through my supplies, and one of the reasons is that if you've just had a time of making stuff and then they've gone out, there's usually like an explosion. Well, I don't know about you, but for me in the studio, it's usually like you need to do some tidying up, really, to kind of clear the decks for anything else. So here are some of the, I'm just going to go through some of the basic tools I would use when I'm doing jewellery, but I'll also show you some of the fabric ones as well. So scissors, most people have scissors in their supply, I'm assuming. Because of the fabric, I've got this long handle one to cut fabric, and yeah, I think my studio and tools are in need of a clear up. This little caddy I picked up at the dollar store, and that's something that is really just to hold knives and cutlery, but I've utilised it in the studio. And so I've got some small bags that I can separate beads in. I've got my rotary cutter, which is very sharp, really great. That was a great investment. Another pair of scissors in here, a willow stick. This stick, actually, I need to take this out. Yeah, this stick was, I went to the equivalent of our dollar store, and it was connected to, there was loads of them like that you could create fencing with, but I found this was really great for when I was creating wall hanging, so I separated them all and utilised it in terms of wall hangings, but it doesn't need to be in here at the moment. A pencil. They need where they were sitting got a bit dusty, and then the tools for doing jewellery with. So you've got the little pliers. Now these were useless practically, so I've got a bigger one that I use, and that's so much better. It cuts through the wire really well. This is a flat pliers. I don't know the real technical names, but this is a flat pliers. And let me see if I've got a piece of wire in here that I can... I don't know whether it's for flattening or for like when you're bending wire, or I don't have a piece of wire in here. When you're bending wire or doing things like that. I know what these ones, if I wanted to try and see if you see the point, it's got a rounded point. So if you're creating the head of findings, the head, does that make sense? Okay, so there's those. So pliers are an essential tool for me. The other thing I wanted to show you was this is just a tray. Again, I got it from the dollar store, but when I'm doing some projects, it's really useful to be able to just have them in like this. This is it's one of those it's a mat, but it stops the beads from running around. So when you've got beads and you're working on, you can put them in here and it stops them from moving, especially on a flat surface. You just put it down like that, and you can just, it's self-explanatory really, but it stops things from moving around. But I've just got, I was working on a couple of things. So I've dental floss. This is a studio essential for sure, and I do use this in when I'm doing sort of like my own little kind of bookbinding, making signatures. I use this, yeah, just for in the bookbinding. So that's in there. You're going to see I'm going to cover jewellery in another post and beads. So just having a tin that I can just take anywhere, you know, if I'm indoors, not that I do it outdoors, but if I'm, you know, I want to move around and take this sort of like just to sit with the family and do some stuff, I can, so it just makes it easier. The other thing in terms of jewellery supplies would be containers. So I've got lots of containers, and you're going to see some of the beads that I've got in another post. So having different types of containers, as well as, you know, being able to travel with this is good, and you can just put the different supplies that you need. So you will see different types of containers that I've got. And then I've got sort of like boxes that I can, you know, this is another essential for me, because everything can be separated out and you can clearly see what it is that you need. Another jewellery, it's not really a jewellery tool, but again, another, this is where I keep all my, or some of my needles, and I've got different sizes here and some pins. Needles and pins, I'm sure that's a song. Needles and pins, isn't it? Anyway, I recently brought some really tiny, really thin needles, and this is to use with the seed beads. So, and they're really real trouble to thread. But once they're threaded, and I'm using the seed beads on jewelry, on fabric, I'll show you one that I would have done. This is a piece. So this is a fabric beaded doll, and you can see all the different sizes of beads that we've got going on here. So I would have used one of the fine beads, because some of the, sorry, one of the fine needles, because some of the beads, the holes are very tiny. So like here, you've got the seed beads here on her headdress, and then all around. So these are kind of projects that I like doing. Again, these take a lot longer, but it's very therapeutic. So if you wanted to create a project where you're utilizing a different materials that you wouldn't necessarily normally use, but it could be for a therapeutic purpose. So you're not doing it to sell anything or whatever, but just the stitching and that repetitive kind of mindful activity is something that's very therapeutic, and you can you know, get so much joy from that. Again, this is not jewelry, but I have several different types of crochet needles. I do crochet, and as tools, these are really great. I've inherited a lot of them from my mum, who used to make really fine doilies, and then I just went out and brought some thicker crochet needles, and I do have a really thick one, but I'm not sure where that is. So I try and keep all of these together in another caddy that I've got here. Actually, is it in there? No. Anyway, I've got some other stuff in there, more scissors, decorative scissors, that I've got a set of these. So yeah, there are some tools that I've got in my supply that is again one of my essentials, because I utilize it in my mixed media work. But you might just do jewelry, so you might know all the technical terms for all of these things, and you know, you might have obviously different types of supply. There's a broad range, because I love just creating. I love creating. So if I'm going to be crocheting, so like you've seen on her hat, that was a crocheted flower that I extended and created to go with this mixed media doll, which is made from clay and fabric. And so I've incorporated beads in with the crochet, in with the fabric, in with the stitching, in with the clay. So I just wanted to really touch on that and show you some of the supplies and how I utilize them. And I think that's it for now. I will leave in the comments below some resources. I don't know whether some of you have seen this. I've had this for years. It's supposed to be a really easy way to crochet. I mean, and you thread it through. Sorry about that. You thread it through here, and then this is the eye, and then you're literally just I thought I had some wool in here. Anyway, so that was, I don't know whether any of you have seen that, but I really do like the traditional method of using a crochet needle. I think this is, yeah, you know, you can't go wrong with this. I think this was a fad, like for people who, I don't know, brought out by K-Tel, but I'm not sure how successful it was. But yeah, the traditional methods of crocheting wins hands down for me. So again, just a selection of tools. I'll leave some resources in the comments, not in the comments, down below. And I hope that that's just been an insight into some other tools that you can maybe utilize, or you might want to try out, or you might not want to try out. You might just want to just take a look. The other thing you might want to do is see what other friends have got. If you don't want to go out and buy equipment, you know, it might be get together with some friends and see what you have, and see if you can kind of swap and exchange with each other. Not everybody does like to do that, and because again, you know, obviously it's your tools. If it's your main tools, if you've got spare, you might want to exchange and swap. But if you're precious over them, I think I fall into that category, because I use them so much, and then if anything's damaged, then, you know, having to replace some things, it's just like, I don't use this very often, but I don't want to have to replace it. My rotary tool, I don't want to replace any of my tools because I've had them for so long. So, but if I've got spare of something, then I'm quite happy to do that at times. And then, you know, exchange with another artist. So if you've each got something of the others, then, you know, you want to look after it as if it's your own. But then again, what some people call looking after is not what other people call looking after. So anyway, I'm going to leave it there. I hope this has been insightful, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Okay, bye for now.